Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Chapter 46. Target North Pole, Kryptonian Exploration Spaceship. No matter in the comics or TV series about the female Superman, there is only one reason for the female Superman to appear on Blue Star, to protect her cousin Clark from growing up smoothly. But when the spaceship of the female Superman Kayla was about to leave Krypton, the shockwave released by the destruction of Krypton caused the spaceship of the female Superman to deviate from the route and fall into the Phantom Zone. The Phantom Zone is a special area where time does not pass. It is also for this reason that when the female Superman's spaceship escaped from the Phantom Zone, Superman had already been active on the Blue Star for nearly 40 years. It is also based on these settings that Carl knows very well that no matter what world he is in, the female Superman will arrive at Blue Star later than Clark. But the world Carl lives in is different from the original DC universe. The universe in which Carl lives is the integrated worldview of the Marvel and DC universes. After the two worldviews are integrated, some stories that were supposed to happen may change unpredictably for some reason. Just like the premature destruction of Krypton mentioned in the system, it is one of the unpredictable changes. The unknown changes in the integration of the two worldviews caused Superman to have no chance to come to Blue Star, but Superman's cousin came unexpectedly. Carl, who had been thinking for a long time, could only draw this conclusion in his mind. Since the small one-person spaceship in the world of steel-bodied Superman appeared on Blue Star, it means that the worldview of steel-bodied Superman has been integrated. In the setting of Superman with a steel body, when Krypton was in the expansion period, it launched exploration spacecraft to most of the planets in the universe, and there are exploration spacecraft on Blue Planet. Since this world has the setting elements of the steel-bodied Superman, maybe the exploration ship launched by Krypton also existed on this planet. Carl suddenly reacted. In the worldview of Superman with a steel body, Kryptonians have an extremely advanced technological civilization. In addition, Kryptonians' physical fitness is beyond imagination. At its peak, the Kryptonian race visited the entire interstellar space for colonization and expansion. And it was during the process of interstellar colonization and expansion that countless exploration spacecraft were launched by the Kryptonians to planets all over the universe. The exploration spacecraft can provide Krypton with the coordinates of the star, which is convenient for the Kryptonians to colonize and expand. This is also the reason why Superman and female Superman can appear on Blue Star. I remember that the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft in the plot seems to be in the Arctic ice. If there are exploration spacecraft on this planet, they should have come to this planet 20,000 years ago. There are blizzards in the North Pole all the year round, and the exploration spacecraft should be buried deeper now. If this Kryptonian exploration spacecraft has not been discovered. Carl glanced at the key to the Kryptonian spacecraft in his hand, and became interested. The Kryptonian exploration spacecraft is much more powerful than the one-man spaceship that Jin Bing found. Kryptonians can successfully colonize the interstellar space, mainly due to the existence of the creation chamber on the exploration spacecraft. The Genesis chamber is a room where a large number of Kryptonian primitive embryos are cultivated. These embryos exist in the fingers of the tree trunk in the secret chamber of creation, just like the fruit that bears, and they can develop into shape only after being picked off by people. On Krypton, except for Clark Kent, all other Kryptonians were born from the creation chamber. Krypton originally had an advanced civilization. In this advanced civilized society, the normal way of racial reproduction has long since disappeared. According to the needs of society, Kryptonians will endow Kryptonian babies with certain social functions before they are born. If you need a general, you will produce a general, and you can only be a general for a lifetime. This situation actually limits the development space of Kryptonians in a sense. When it was born from the secret room of creation, it actually needed an object called the central book. The central book is actually a super large capacity hard drive, which records the genetic sequences of all Kryptonians. When Krypton lacks fighters, it will select a sequence that matches the fighter's gene from the central collection. Through the genetic breeding technology and the gene sequence data in the central book, the Kryptonians can successfully give birth to a warrior. In a sense, this way of continuing the race is equivalent to a kind of eternal life. The central book should have been integrated into Clark's body by his biological father, and then brought to Blue Star. But Clark never had the chance to come to Blue Star. Perhaps, the central book and Clark have been destroyed together with Krypton. Carl put away the thoughts in his mind, took the Kryptonian spacecraft key in his hand and flew straight to the North Pole. The spaceship key is universal. As long as it is a Kryptonian spaceship, the Kryptonian key can be used to activate the control. Carl is going to carefully look for the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft that may exist in the North Pole, and will never let go of every corner. The exploration ship is of great value to Carl, and he doesn't want it to fall into the wrong hands. Even if the spaceship equipped with the secret chamber of creation does not have a central book, it can actually create a group of Kryptonians. It's just that this Kryptonian has no soul. A soulless Kryptonian placed on a blue planet with yellow sunlight would undoubtedly become a terrifying killing machine. Carl doesn't want this kind of thing to happen. Blue Star is a place where he enjoys life, and it must be stable enough. As Carl flew towards the Arctic Circle, Shield in the Sky battleship also spotted him. With his arms folded, Nick Fury couldn't help frowning as he looked at the data sent by the military. Are you sure it's Superman? Yes, his flight speed is faster than ever before. It looks like something happened. Phil Coulson flipped through the information on the screen and reported to Nick Fury one by one. 5 seconds later, Superman is expected to be out of range of our instruments. He is ultimately headed for the North Pole. Arctic. Nick Fury looked down, thinking, what is this Superman doing at the North Pole with no rest at night? It's impossible to appreciate the violent snowstorm in the Arctic or to appreciate the northern lights, right? Chapter 47. Forget it. Don't worry about it. Nick Fury held back for a long time. That's all he could say. The flight speed shown by Superman. Even fighter jets can't catch up, so naturally don't expect to keep up with Superman to find out what he wants to do. By the way, Phil Coulson, has Tony Stark lost touch? Phil Coulson said in a deep voice, yes, we are stepping up efforts to find his whereabouts. Hope he's okay, Nick Fury murmured. At a terrifying flight speed of more than 30 times the speed of sound, Carl soon came to the sky above the Arctic Glacier. Compared with Antarctica, which has super thick ice, the situation on the Arctic Glacier side is much better. But even so, the thickness of the Arctic glaciers in this world is still astonishingly several hundred meters. Carl, floating above the Arctic glaciers, is using his perspective ability to search for the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft that may exist in the Arctic glaciers. It takes about half a minute to find the exploration spacecraft. Soon, Carl saw the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft covered in solid ice at the position of the 300-meter ice layer. Sure enough, I guessed right. The exploration spacecraft launched to the Blue Star during the Krypton colonization period did exist. This is why the Kryptonians were able to learn the coordinates of the Blue Star and come to the Blue Star. Glancing at the black Kryptonian spacecraft key in his hand, Carl's figure slowly fell from the sky. Standing on the cold and thick layer of ice, Carl looked around, and a vast expanse of white came into view. The cold wind at night made the cloak behind Carl flutter. Although the temperature here is tens of degrees below zero, it can basically be ignored by Carl. The Kryptonian exploration spacecraft is down here. Carl pondered slightly, and then his eyes glowed red. A beam of high-temperature heat vision immediately shot from his eyes to the thick and solid ice layer on the ground. The thick ice layer that has existed for an unknown number of years has been continuously melted under the terrifying heat sight temperature released by Carl. A few seconds later, Carl's figure has arrived in the huge cavity propped up by the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft. Staring at the huge amounts of Kryptonian exploration spacecraft in front of him, Carl couldn't help but feel a little shocked. The size of this exploration spacecraft is at least a kilometer in length alone. The shape of the spacecraft is full of the style of alien planets, and it looks like an alien movie. A spaceship with such a shape can tell at a glance that it does not belong to Blue Star. Carl tapped the ground with his right foot, his tall body rose into the air, and flew towards the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft. It landed firmly on the board of the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft. Carl looked at the cross passage in the spaceship ahead, and moved his gaze to the right-hand side. There slowly rose a strangely shaped console. There is a triangular key socket in the central area of the console. The shape of the keyhole fits perfectly with the key to the Kryptonian spaceship in Carl's hand. To gain control of this spacecraft, you only need to insert the key of the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft. After deliberating for a few seconds, Carl decided to take the authority of this spaceship into his own hands first. The moment Carl pressed the key of the Kryptonian spacecraft, the dim Kryptonian exploration spacecraft suddenly lit up brightly. At the same time, a system prompt sounded beside Carl's ear. Open black lens bracket ding. Trigger the cosmic event, the arrival of the Kryptonians. Close black lens bracket. Introduction to the major event task. Being imprisoned in the Phantom Zone, a group of Kryptonians headed by Kryptonian General Zod successfully escaped from the Phantom Zone after the destruction of Krypton. They were supposed to be wandering aimlessly in the universe, but they suddenly tracked down the signal source from the Blue Star exploration spacecraft. Close black lens bracket. In order to regenerate Krypton again, Zod and others will descend on this planet in 5 days. Close black lens bracket. It is detected that this major incident may affect the whole world. Please host to make a choice. Close black lens bracket. Option 1. Kill General Zod and his party. Rewards for completing the task. The integration progress of the Steel Superman bloodline is increased by 6%, and the integration progress of the Silver Superman bloodline is increased by 5%. Close black lens bracket. Option 2. Join General Zod's camp and regenerate Krypton. Rewards for completing the mission. Title Ruler of Krypton. With this title, you will be the Supreme Ruler of Krypton, possessing the ability to command all Kryptonians. Close black lens bracket. Seeing the system prompt that suddenly appeared in front of him, Carl was also stunned. Carl originally just wanted to control the exploration spacecraft and prevent it from falling into the hands of others. But what Carl didn't expect was that he actually triggered the so-called cosmic event. General Zod. Carl frowned as he scanned the mission introduction carefully. The mission rewards this time are more than the sum of the previous mission rewards combined. A major cosmic event. Carl pondered slightly. Krypton General Zod and others descended on Blue Star, which indeed brought huge amounts of influence. In the story of Man of Steel, General Zod and others had a premonition that Krypton was about to be destroyed, so General Zod led his men to launch a rebellion in an attempt to save Krypton that was about to be destroyed. But Krypton's high-level officials noticed the attempts of General Zod and others, and General Zod and his party, who failed in the rebellion, were imprisoned in the Phantom Zone. The Phantom Zone is also called the Phantom Prison. Originally it is a boundless void. Krypton's criminals are basically imprisoned in the Phantom Prison. After the destruction of Krypton, General Zod and his party successfully escaped from the Phantom Zone. Originally, they were supposed to wander aimlessly in the universe until Clark activated the exploration spacecraft. Drifting in the universe, Zod and others also successfully captured the signal source of the exploration spacecraft from Blue Star. In order to get the central tome from Clark, Zod and others finally fought a fierce battle with Clark in the Blue Star metropolis. In this world, due to some unknown reasons, Krypton was destroyed ahead of time, which also caused Clark not to come to Blue Star smoothly. Without Clark's arrival, the exploration spacecraft frozen in the North Pole should not have been discovered so early. Chapter 48. It's broken. I'm the one who attracted the Kryptonians. Carl couldn't help muttering. Those Kryptonian fighters headed by General Zod are not as easy to crush as ordinary people. Especially General Zod, who was originally born as a warrior, is far superior to ordinary Kryptonians in terms of combat effectiveness and adaptability to the environment. Not to mention Zod, even when his subordinates first arrived at Blue Star, they could rub Clark, who had been in the sun for more than 30 years, under the ground, which is enough to show how amazing the strength of these Kryptonian fighters is. I don't know whether I am the opponent of this group of guys now. Carl looked thoughtful. If the destructive power shown in the movie is used as a reference, Carl feels that the strength of Zod and others may be around 50,000 to more than 100,000 tons. In the power range of 50,000 to 100,000 tons, Carl can easily catch up with it. During these 5 days, Carl has had enough sun exposure and improved the progress of template integration. Not only can he reach the goal of 100,000 tons of force, but even surpass this goal. The integrate progress of the Superman template has been increased a lot. In addition, Carl is very diligent in basking in the sun now, and his growth rate is actually very fast. At this moment, the system sent a reminder sound again. Congratulations to the host for triggering a major cosmic event for the first time. Additional reward host. Steel body Superman template integration progress increased by 1%. Silver Superman template integration progress increased by 1%. Close black lens bracket. The current system prompts related to rewards, especially the notifications that can increase the progress of the template integrate, are tantamount to sounds of heaven to Carl. The increase of template integrate progress also represents the increase of Carl's growth rate. The first time you trigger a major cosmic event, you can still get the reward of increasing the progress of the template integrate. Carl's eyes flashed. Combined with the super high degree of integration reward after the cosmic event is completed, Carl has realized that the cosmic event should be very important to him. So, Carl couldn't help but inquired about the big event in the universe. What is the system called a cosmic event? The blue star in this universe belongs to the center of the universe, and many stories will happen on this planet. Therefore, the stories that happened on this planet enough to affect the whole world will be called cosmic events. Close black lens bracket. The host triggers and participates in major cosmic events, and will receive generous rewards. Close black lens bracket. It is worth mentioning that events in the universe are bound to happen in this world. Even if there is no host to intervene, it will eventually lead to major events in the universe. Close black lens bracket. Looking at the text reply given by the system, Carl suddenly understood. The system made it very clear that as long as it happened in this world and had a far-reaching impact and a wider impact, it would be determined by the system as a major cosmic event. Let's just say, in Carl's mind, events such as the arrival of Kryptonians, the birth of Sentinel, Loki's invasion of Blue Star, the crisis of Ultron, the Civil War of Avengers, and the arrival of Doomsday. In this world, these events should all belong to the big events of the universe, right? Carl cleared his mind, and asked silently in his heart, "System, what does it mean that an event must happen?" Answer to the host: simply speaking, the cosmic event is an inevitable event. Even if the host changes the development direction of this world, it will eventually trigger the cosmic event again in the correction of the universe. Close black lens bracket. It's like the Kryptonians' arrival event triggered by the host just now. Even if the host didn't activate the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft, someone else would activate the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft. Close black lens bracket. I see, Carl suddenly realized. When he still wanted to continue communicating with the system, Carl suddenly caught a figure out of the corner of his eye. It was this figure that surprised Carl. He hadn't noticed the appearance of this figure just now. Krypton's exploration spacecraft were all built by Clark Kent's biological father, Jor-El. Every spacecraft on Krypton is equipped with a high-level intelligent program. Using the high-level intelligent program, the spacecraft can maintain normal operation without Kryptonian manual operation. But this high-level smart program needs to insert the key of the spaceship to unlock it. Simply put, the spacecraft key is the key to the intelligent program carried by the Kryptonian spacecraft. Carl never expected that after he inserted the Kryptonian spacecraft key into the exploration spacecraft, the figure of Clark's biological father, Jor-El, would appear. Unexpectedly, the person who finally appeared in this exploration spacecraft was not my child, nor Kayla, but a strange face. Jor-El made a peaceful voice. Carl carefully looked at Jor-El in front of him. He was not a living person, but a virtual image, an existence projected by a Kryptonian spacecraft. Even though it was a projected phantom image, Jor-El looked very real, as if he was really alive. Jor-El has a beard, and his face is very kind, and his position is not that of a warrior like Zod. While Carl was looking at Jor-El, Jor-El was also looking at him. You may wonder who I am. My name is Jor-El, the designer of this spaceship. What you can see so far is just a consciousness image I uploaded. Jor-El looked at Carl, and he naturally saw the clothes on Carl. Although there is no family crest of the Al family on the chest, such clothes are undoubtedly the same home clothes of the Al family. What's your name? Jor-El asked softly. Carl. Carl. Jor-El was stunned. It's similar to my child's name. Unfortunately, I didn't see him grow up. Jor-El shook his head regretfully. Hearing this, Carl also had some doubts in his heart. What happened on Krypton that finally caused Superman not to come to Blue Star? Come with me, let's talk while walking. Jor-El took Carl to familiarize himself with the exploration spacecraft, and at the same time explained some things that happened before the destruction of Krypton. Through Jor-El's description, Carl finally figured out what happened to Krypton in this world. The initial plot was actually the same as that performed in the movie Man of Steel. Zod's rebellion was suppressed and he was imprisoned in the Phantom Zone. But in that battle, Zod and others used a weapon purchased from other planets, which would accelerate the consumption of planetary energy. Krypton is a planet whose planetary energy has been exhausted, which also makes the planet core of Krypton extremely unstable, becoming a planet that is about to be destroyed and exploded. After the use of new weapons by Zod and others, the speed of Krypton's destruction was greatly advanced. Feeling this, Jor-El wanted to send Clark to Blue Star immediately, but it turned out to be too slow. Jor-El didn't have time to launch a plan to send his children away, and was eventually destroyed along with Krypton. Although Clark was not sent to Blue Star, there was still one person who carried the hope of Krypton's revival and came to Blue Star smoothly. This hope is exactly Clark's cousin, Kayla Jor-El. Chapter 49. Based on the principle of insurance, Jor-El let Kayla arrive at Blue Star first. Moreover, he also copied a copy of the object called the Central Book and gave it to Kayla. Unexpectedly, the person who finally entered the exploration spacecraft was not Kayla, but Carl, who seemed to be a Kryptonian in the eyes of Jor-El. After listening to the story told by Jor-El, Carl finally understood the reason why the destruction of Krypton accelerated and Clark did not reach the Blue Star. It turns out that the key to the Kryptonian spaceship that Jin Bin obtained was on the spaceship of Clark's cousin Kayla. My child was supposed to come to this world, and ultimately carried the hope of two worlds. This is also the meaning of our Al family's crest. Jor-El raised his hands and opened the coat on his chest. A black battle suit emblazoned with an S was revealed on Jor-El's chest. Although I don't know where you got the key to the spaceship, Mr. Carl, but since you got it, Kayla must have probably lived on this planet. The hope of Krypton is ultimately in her hands, definitely, provided that Mr. Carl will tell her what I said. Jor-El stopped slowly, and after taking Carl to understand the main functions and rooms of the spaceship, he said softly, "This Kryptonian exploration spaceship is almost here. Mr. Carl, you are the owner of this spaceship now, you can take a look at it casually, if you have any questions, you can ask me directly." Okay, Carl nodded. Seeing Jor-El's image disappear, Carl turned and walked towards the corridor where the Al family's clothing was stored. When Carl came to the corridor where the Al family's clothing was stored, a piece of extremely well-preserved clothing caught Carl's eyes. During the conversation with Jor-El, Carl also knew the meaning of these clothing representatives of the Al family. Made of golden armor, with a bright red cloak on the back, and a long sword at the waist, the costume is the traditional costume of the Al family and is usually worn during grand ceremonies. And it looks bloated and fat, like the suit worn by astronauts, but it is the interstellar expedition suit that needs to be worn to explore unknown planets. The classic red and blue battle suit that everyone is very familiar with is only worn when Krypton starts diplomacy with other planets. The battle suit next to the red and blue battle suit is covered with silver armor. This battle suit covered with silver armor is the strongest among these costumes, and it belongs to the Kryptonian battle suit. The black clothing is casual clothes, and Jor-El is wearing this suit. The battle suit on Carl is also a black battle suit, but there is no S character on the chest of his battle suit. In fact, these battle suits are not what Carl wants. What Carl is looking for is a set of armor that can provide him with the energy of the yellow sun constantly. It is not impossible to manufacture armor that can continuously provide the energy of the yellow sun all the time. In the DC Comics, there was a Superman named Little Superman. His armor has the ability to continuously provide the energy of the yellow sun. The fighting power of the Supreme Little Superman is extremely terrifying. There have been many Supermans in DC Comics, but the fighting power of the Supreme Little Superman has always been at the forefront. Because the Supreme Little Superman originally is a character born based on the Superman of the Silver Age. So it is not an exaggeration to regard the Supreme Junior Superman as a Silver Superman. It is this kind of setting that makes the Supreme Little Superman have an amazingly powerful combat power. In the plot, Superman imitated the supervillain, Anti-Monitor, in DC Comics to create a set of armor that can provide yellow fixed star energy. With this suit of armor, the little Superman doesn't need to bask in the sun every day. No matter what he does, even in a dark environment, he can grow up all the time. Carl just knew about the battle suit of the Supreme Little Superman, so he planned to build such a suit for himself. Thinking about these things, Carl called out Joe-Al, who had disappeared before. After some inquiries, Carl learned from Joe-Al that the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft does not have the ability to manufacture a fixed-star battle suit. Although the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft did not have the ability to make a fixed-star battle suit, Joe-Al provided Carl with a set of blueprints for making a fixed-star battle suit. Although no one in the history of Krypton has ever conceived of a yellow fixed-star battle suit, the clever Joe-Al was able to provide such a battle suit design. It was also Carl's demand that made Joe-Al's image realize, it turns out that the other party is really a Kryptonian. But Joe-Al didn't remember that there was such a Kryptonian on Krypton. Could it be from another universe? While guessing, Joe-Al provided Carl with the design of the yellow fixed-star battle suit. Carl used the super brain to memorize all the production principles and process of the yellow fixed-star battle suit deep in his mind. Next, Carl plans to use his own ability to make the fixed-star battle suit. But only if there is a place for him to make the yellow fixed-star battle suit. Milkheim, where Thor built Stormbreaker, is a good place. Even artifacts like Infinity Gauntlet and Stormbreaker can be forged there. I can provide a complete fixed-star battle suit design, and it shouldn't be a problem for the Dwarf King to create this set of battle suits. Just with my current super hearing and supervision, it is not easy to find Milkheim in the vast universe. It seems that we can only wait until Thor is thrown on the blue star to have a chance. Going directly to Milkheim with Bifrost is the best option. Chapter 50. Carl finalized the place where he will make his yellow fixed-star battle suit in the future, and wandered around in this huge amounts of exploration spacecraft. After confirming that the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft really had nothing useful, Carl followed the principle of bringing something back on this trip. Under the surprised eyes of Joe-Al, Carl put on a classic red and blue color matching battle suit. Although you are not from the Al family, but this battle suit is more suitable for you than I thought in my mind. It's almost like you were born to wear this battle suit. Joe-Al folded his hands slightly, looked at Carl seriously and carefully, and let out a heartfelt exclamation. Carl smiled and said, "It's just that the Al family crest on the chest is a bit weird." The exploration spacecraft retrieved a language called English on this planet, and there is a super in the English word. Although Mr. Carl is not from the Al family, why can't he use it as the first letter of the word spewer? The word super originally suits you very well, doesn't it? Joe-Al's eyes seemed to know everything. As Krypton's brilliant scientist, Joe-Al didn't think he'd be wrong. Although his own child fell in the Kryptonian explosion, the young man in front of him has the same ability as the Kryptonian after absorbing the yellow fixed star light. After adding the name that made Joe-Al feel close, Joe-Al subconsciously regarded Carl as one of his own. It is even possible that the Carl in front of him is a descendant of Krypton from another universe. Mr. Joe-Al, what you said really woke me up. Carl clenched his hands into fists, and his powerful muscles bulged under the steel body red and blue battle suit. This battle suit is made of the same materials as the black battle suit he wore before. I'm not from the Al family, so it's okay to use this logo as the initials of super. Joe-Al smiled and said, "Actually, when Mr. Carl wears this suit and appears in front of people on this planet, they should also regard the logo on your chest as super, right? After all, isn't your title Superman?" Joe-Al's words didn't surprise Carl either. The Kryptonian exploration spacecraft already has a more powerful signal system. It is not uncommon for Joe-Al to use the signal system of the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft to enter the network system built by humans. "Mr. Carl, if you want to leave the spaceship, you must take the key with you." "I understand that, Mr. Joe-Al, then we will see you next time." Carl looked at Joe-Al. Joe-Al nodded. As Carl pulled out the key to the Kryptonian spacecraft, the image of the other party disappeared without a trace. Then, Carl's figure flew out of the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft. Glancing at the Kryptonian spacecraft key in his hand, Carl put the key into the system storage space again. If the system storage space is not too small, Carl even wants to put this Kryptonian exploration spacecraft in it. It's a pity that Carl still has no way to perfectly put away the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft. In addition, the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft was too huge, and after Carl finally thought about it, he decided to let it stay here. Anyway, the authority of the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft has been completely taken over by Carl. Put it here, as long as the other party does not have the key to the Kryptonian exploration spacecraft, it will not be activated. Looking up at the ice cave that had been melted by the heat, Carl tapped the ground with his right foot, and his body suddenly rose into the air. The high-speed flight's body passed through the ice cave hundreds of meters deep and came to the sky above the North Pole. The Arctic night sky is very quiet tonight. The brilliant northern lights spread under the star-studded night sky, faintly exuding the color of kryptonite. For this green northern lights, Carl wasn't interested in the slightest. Without stopping at the North Pole, Carl's figure exploded into the air, surrounded by a terrifying air explosion, and flew near the outer space of Blue Star in an instant. Looking at the radiant yellow sun in the distance, Carl held his breath, closed his eyes and began to concentrate on absorbing the sunlight. There are only 5 days before the arrival of Zod and others, and Carl will complete an extraordinary metamorphosis within these 5 days. After basking in the sun for about 5 or 6 minutes, Carl suddenly opened his eyes. So the red and blue battlesuit and the black battlesuit have the same efficiency in absorbing sunlight. At first, I thought that black absorbs heat and will speed up the growth rate. It turns out that I was wrong. It seems that the efficiency and speed of my absorption of sunlight mainly comes from the integration progress of the double Superman template. The higher the integration progress, the faster the efficiency and speed of my absorption of sunlight. Just as Carl was absorbing the yellow sun radiation, various events are also happening on Blue Star. Tony Stark, one of the leaders of Stark Industries, the world's largest arms dealer, disappeared in the Middle East. Even though the government has sent the military to search with all their strength, they still found nothing. No one knows whether Tony Stark, the world's leading rich man, is alive or dead. And here in Gotham City, Batman Bruce Wayne looks out at the overcast sky and turns on the bat lights that can reflect the bat. This also declares that starting tonight, there will be a bat vigilante officially haunting Gotham City. He punishes rape and eliminates evil, and will bring hope to ordinary citizens. And on the night of the Riddler incident, Catwoman got Carl's business card. After finishing the matter at hand, Catwoman arrived in NY City on the same day. I took out my phone and called Carl several times, but no one answered. In desperation, Catwoman can only choose a hotel to stay in first, and at the same time, she is also planning to walk around in New York City. Although he has never been to NY City before, Catwoman heard that there is a mysterious woman who looks like her own ability and is also a thief. This mysterious woman's title is very similar to her own. Her name is Catwoman, and the mysterious female thief's name is Black Cat. When Catwoman was wandering around NY City, the Xavier Academy for Genius Boys also made waves. Please like and subscribe.